My stepmother looked me straight in the eyes at her birthday dinner and said, "You're 19 now. It's time you start paying rent." I remember just staring at her. Her two kids, 17 and 20, were sitting there like nothing had happened, continuing to eat. Her 20-year-old son had moved back home after dropping out of college and hadn't paid a single cent since. I knew that for a fact because I handled all the mail. "Rent?" I asked. "For my dad's house?" She didn't even blink. "This is a home, not a charity. Everyone contributes." My dad stayed quiet. That's how he'd been since he remarried quiet. I asked her directly why her son wasn't being asked to pay. "He's going through a transition," she said. Her daughter was 17, so I guess she had an excuse too, but me? The moment I turned 19, I was suddenly a financial burden. I paid $300 a month. I told myself it was temporary, that my dad would step in eventually. He didn't. What I never told them, what I never told anyone in that house, was that the house wasn't fully my dad's. My mom passed away when I was 11, and in her will, she left me half of the property. My dad owned the other half. When I turned 18, a lawyer explained everything to me, but I didn't use that information. I didn't want to cause problems. I just wanted to finish school and keep the peace. That peace didn't last long. About 8 months after I started paying rent, my cousin called me. He had been talking to my dad at a family gathering I didn't attend, and my dad let something slip. My stepmother had been pressuring him to kick me out. Apparently, I was creating tension in the house. The real reason? They needed my room for her son's girlfriend, who was planning to move in, and my dad was actually considering it. I didn't confront anyone that night. The next morning, I called my mom's old lawyer. Turns out, things were a lot clearer than I thought. My stepmother's name wasn't on the deed. Neither were her kids. The house was half mine, half my dad's. Any decision about the property, including who gets to live there, required both of our consent. Letting her son's girlfriend move in without my approval was already a problem. Trying to kick me out was a much bigger one. I had the paperwork prepared, not just for her and her kids, but for my dad too. Because if he was going to take her side in something like this, he needed to fully understand what he was risking. The birthday dinner was her idea. She loved big picture perfect family moments, things that made her look like the one holding everything together. My dad cooked. Her kids were there. Everything looked warm and normal on the surface. The cake was cut. The candles were blown out. I waited. Then I placed 3 envelopes on the table, one for her, one for her son, one for her daughter. At first, she laughed. She thought it was some kind of weird gift. Then she opened it. Her face froze. It was like her brain needed a moment to catch up with what she was reading. "What is this?" she asked. "You wanted to kick me out," I said calmly. "So I figured we should make it official, but it turns out you don't actually have the authority to do that." My dad grabbed the envelope from her and read it. Then he looked at me. I could see the exact moment it hit him. The will, the house, and the fact that he had chosen not to mention any of it while his wife was trying to push me out. My stepmother started crying. She said I was tearing the family apart, that she was just trying to bring order to the house, that choosing her birthday made me cruel. Her son started yelling, calling me names. Her daughter quietly picked up her plate, went into the kitchen, and stayed there. Honestly, she seemed like the smartest one in that moment. My dad asked if we could talk privately. I said yes. But before I left the room, I told him one thing. She was charging me rent to live in a house I co-own, and he let that happen. He didn't have an answer. We're still in the middle of everything. No one has been legally removed yet. My dad and I are stuck in this strange, painful negotiation. At this point, it's not even just about the house anymore. It's about what kind of father he wants to be. My stepmother has completely stopped talking to me, which is fine. Her son moved out 2 weeks later. I didn't expect that, but I'm not upset about it either. The part I can't stop thinking about is this. I stayed quiet for almost a year. I paid rent I didn't even owe. I watched her call it fairness while her own kids live for free. I tried to keep the peace. But somewhere along the way, I realized something. Keeping the peace isn't the same as letting people treat you badly. Did I handle everything perfectly? Probably not. But I don't know what else I was supposed to do. And I keep coming back to the same question. Was I wrong for waiting until her birthday? Or was that the least she deserved?
This case, while appearing on the surface as a simple dispute over rent, reflects a multi-layered family dynamic shaped by boundary violations and underlying psychological patterns. The 19-year-old individual was required by his stepmother to pay rent in order to continue living in the home. However, this expectation was not applied equally to other members of the household. The fact that the stepmother exempted her own children while targeting only him suggests that the issue was not rooted in financial necessity, but rather in an attempt to establish control, authority, and define belonging within the household. Such selective enforcement often creates an implicit us versus him dynamic, reinforcing feelings of exclusion. The father's passive stance throughout the process represents another critical psychological factor. While his silence may appear to preserve short-term harmony, it effectively functions as indirect approval of the ongoing unfairness. This type of parental behavior is commonly observed in individuals who avoid conflict in order to maintain a newly established family structure. However, this avoidance often comes at the cost of emotional neglect, leaving the child feeling unsupported and isolated. The young individual's decision to remain silent for nearly a year and to consistently pay rent he was not actually obligated to pay highlights a strong peacekeeping tendency. This pattern is typically associated with conflict avoidance, a desire for acceptance, and a delayed ability to establish personal boundaries. In such dynamics, individuals may unconsciously deprioritize their own rights, inadvertently enabling further boundary violations. As seen in this case, the situation escalated beyond financial expectations and evolved into pressure to remove him from the home entirely. The response that followed should not be interpreted as impulsive, but rather as a delayed assertion of boundaries. Presenting legal documents during a symbolic moment such as the stepmother's birthday was not merely a practical action, but also a powerful expression of accumulated injustice. Reactions that emerge after prolonged suppression often carry greater intensity and impact. Therefore, while the timing of the action may be subject to criticism, its psychological basis remains understandable and coherent. The stepmother's reaction, characterized by crying, accusations, and claims of destroying the family, can be understood as an externalization of responsibility and an emotional response to a loss of control. Similarly, the son's anger likely reflects a perceived threat to his previously unchallenged privileges. In contrast, the daughter's withdrawal from the situation suggests a tendency toward conflict avoidance and observational coping. In conclusion, this case illustrates a significant psychological shift in the individual. The realization that maintaining peace is not synonymous with tolerating mistreatment. Initially, the relationship dynamic was sustained through compliance and silence. However, over time, this led to increased inequality and a deepened sense of exclusion. Ultimately, the individual took a clear, though delayed, step toward asserting his rights. While the process remains ongoing, this intervention represents not only a legal stance regarding property, but also a broader redefinition of identity, self-worth, and one's place within the family system.